Hey, welcome in everybody to another edition of the Auburn Live Recruiting Show. I am Auburn Live recruiting football analyst Cole Pinkston. I am not recruiting senior editor. Got it right this time, Alan.
There you go.
Jeffrey Lee. Uh, but this is the Auburn Live Recruiting Show. Dad gummit. So I'm with Alan. We got a Cole and Alan show tonight. You know what to expect when you get this. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm excited for tonight. Like, look, I'm never going to say that a show is going to feel the same without one Jeffrey Lee, but I do love the deep football dive that we happen to get into when it's just me and you, my man.
Absolutely, it's going to happen. And you know when it's us, we'll veer off of recruiting a little bit. We'll go into some football because, putting a big red recruiting tab and saying recruiting when we put the questions up is not enough for some of you. So, you know what? We'll play into it tonight just for you. So, we'll dive into that. But, Alan, a couple things I want to hit on before we get into questions. I've got three new predictions.
Okay.
I don't know if we've talked about maybe on the Collins show, but specifically broken down the Jacquez Wilkes prediction that I put in. What is your stance on where Auburn stands with Jacquez Wilkes, 4-star linebacker from Wadley, Alabama?
After asking around, I really think there is genuine interest on both the prospect side and increased interest on Auburn side to the point that he is, and I think you described this perfectly, Cole, maybe a top 5 prospect on the board at this point. He's moved into the part of this where Auburn is knocking down the door on this one. And so because of that, the fit, the need for a inside linebacker in this class of his physical skill set, I really like that pick by you. I just think they're going to prioritize him. I don't get the sense that he's looking to do anything quick. I do think he's going to take a couple visits. But the long play of at some point this summer, I do like Jacquez Wilkes ending up in this class. I think that was a solid pick by you.
More of a long-term projection, I guess. You have to do those sometimes. If you wait till it gets right to the minute, I like to go ahead and put it in sometimes. And with him, I'd heard enough. I had heard enough. I've heard that it may not be long-term. We'll see. Not ready to go that far. It's just what I've heard, right?
Sure.
It could happen sooner than later. But he was at Alabama right after I put in that pick naturally. And it arose some questions like, what's up with that? Well, he was on their 8A list beforehand, before I ever put the pick in, before he visited for Big Cat. And then again, on a Thursday morning practice, he came back and just checked out practice and went back home after about 2 hours. Just wanted to see it again, is what he told us. And I felt pretty good about the prediction after that, talking to people in the building and talking to him again. And here we are. He said he'd try to be back to 8A, but, he was already on the list of Alabama. So he went ahead and took that visit. Also, Alan put one in for Wilson Zier. If I'm trying to pronounce it like Jeffrey did.
Good luck on enunciating it the Jeffrey Lee way. But go ahead.
How do you agree with me on this one, on this pick?
I do. I think Auburn is starting to separate themselves. They seem to have prioritized him in a way that's just kind of separating them. And obviously the tie to his brother, I think that plays a role. But Wilson is his own guy. That much you can pick up from interviews. And so I don't think he's going to be necessarily swayed by his brother in one way or another. Michigan seems like a team that started to prioritize him some. He obviously has official visits to both Alabama and Georgia, but really like Auburn in this one. I think Auburn sees him as a high-end target on their board. They're treating him as such, and he is, in his words, feeling the love from Auburn and feeling prioritized. So really like that pick. I think that one's got an opportunity to pop sooner rather than later. But we will just have to see, but really love that pick.
Yeah, I do too. For the same reasons, I think his brother has something to do with it, but also just the way that Auburn staff has treated him and made him a priority. And, with everything he knows about Auburn already, You add it all together, looks pretty good for the Tigers, I'd say. Um, when you're talking athleticism with this guy, it's up there.
Yeah.
High athletic ceiling. I mean, it's very similar to what you got in Brody Scholl in the last class, I would say. You're getting a high end athlete with room to put more weight on his frame. So I really like Wilson Zierer. I think that'd be a really nice pickup when Auburn gets him, whatever you want to say. And then
Mm-hmm.
the third one I put in, Alan, was Dalton Toothman, who was hearing some Clemson buzz with him, but that fell off a little bit. Mississippi State, Baylor is involved,
Ole Miss to some degree.
Ole Miss, one other, I think, but those are the main ones. Auburn is, I feel like, in the best position to land him, and they really have prioritized him. I mean, this is not the same as Wilson Zierer, who is a 3-star. They're both 3 stars, but Wilson Zierer's offer list is as good as you're going to find.
Yeah.
Tickman's got some good offers, but the ones that are sort of prioritizing him, not as big as Wilson Zierer. But I'm telling you, Auburn loves him as an interior offensive line prospect. They think they can get him pretty soon. I think they can too. So I'll put that one in. What do you think about that one?
I don't know as much about Dalton Toothman. I trust you on this one wholeheartedly. I love the fit. I mean, he seems like a Jake Thornton kind of guy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's got a type. He likes big, athletic, very intelligent, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
huge piece to this for him. But Jake absolutely has a type, and I think Dalton Toothman falls within the scope of that type. Uh, I like him specifically as an interior prospect. I think you see feet that he could be a swing and maybe play tackle for you in an emergency situation. Lean enough of a body that he can stay on the outside, but I think inside he shows some real power on tape, specifically in the run game, where it's going to play better to his strong suit, being an interior player. I like it. I think it's a good fit. I think he really does enjoy Auburn. When you read the comments that he gives or provides you guys from the interviews, you can tell that Auburn seems to have really gotten to the top end. It's probably going to come down between Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. I don't see Baylor as a true contender. I think it will come down between Auburn and the two Mississippi schools, and I'm with you. I do like Auburn's odds at this time. There's just something about the kid that makes me think that Jake is going to be able to land him, that they just mesh. That I don't know. Sometimes you get a feeling when you're reading quotes or when you're asking people like, "Hey, is this a natural fit at Auburn?" And Toothman seems to be a natural fit within the culture of the program that Hugh Freeze is building. And for that reason alone, I really like this pick by you.
And the first time I talked to him, I thought, yeah, no, that guy fits, no
Yeah.
doubt. I just needed to know, where is Auburn with him? Like, do they want to
Right.
push for him? If that's the case, I'm all in with it. And everything I've heard is that Auburn loves him. He's pretty high on the interior offensive line board. So that pick made a lot of sense to me. Again, maybe a long-term deal. He might want to take his OVs, but I would not rule out an earlier commitment here. I think Auburn can speed his process up, put it that way.
Okay.
How many, by the way, he kind of reminds me of Mal Waldrop. If you remember
Yes.
him.
Yes.
Similar.
Yes.
They answer questions similarly. They're both hunting, fishing kind of guys.
Yes.
Cowboy boot and jeans kind of guy. So he kind of reminded me of Mal. Mal's at Alabama now, in case you don't remember him, from Central Phoenix City. How about two predictions that went the other way in Xavier Crowell, running back from Jackson, and Cedarian Morgan, big receiver target from Alexander City, Benjamin Russell. Steve Wiltfong on 3. Steve Wiltfong put in predictions for Alabama for those two.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that, Alan?
So Xavier Crowell, I agree with Steve Wiltfong wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I think he lands with Alabama, and probably it won't be in the very distant future. I think
Right.
that one could happen relatively quickly. With CD Morgan, I would say Alabama is absolutely the team with the majority of buzz right now. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Long term, where does he end up? I would still favor the field more than I would favor Alabama at this point. I think there are a lot of schools still in play for him. Alabama, again, is probably the one that gets the most mention, but I don't think he's a kid that's any rush to make a decision, or at least that's not my take on it from asking around. I do think Auburn will be relevant in that recruitment to the very end, just
Yes.
because of the way they prioritize in-state prospects and specifically him. So while if I had to pick a school, I would probably agree with that. I just don't get the sense that that recruitment is wrapped up in a way that I would feel comfortable putting in a projection to any one team at this point. That's kind of my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, and I did an early projection to Auburn, which even when I made the pick, I was like, look, we're going to have to monitor this. It's just felt right at the time. We'll see. You know, now Alabama picks are going in. We've had this before, like Demarcus Riddick. There's been others. Um, I think Auburn's in pretty good position with him. If I was calling it today, like the gun to head thing, I'd go Bama. So I'm with Wiltfong, and I'll give him credit. Wiltfong even wrote like, "Look, this is going to be a tussle. I'm going with Alabama right now, but they're going to have to fight to get him because Auburn and he named a couple others, Ohio State, maybe a couple others that really like C.D. Morgan. So
Oregon.
Oregon, I can't remember Georgia. I think he may have mentioned Georgia. Anyway, a few schools that he said are still in it for sure, but want to make this projection now. I'm all on board with that. I can agree with it, even though I have a pick in for Auburn. So I'm with you. It's going to be a long term deal with Cedarius Morgan. I don't think he's ready to settle it down and make a decision. And if he is, we know it ain't over.
No, I wholeheartedly agree on that. And again, if you've been listening or watching our show, it's not a secret that Steve Wiltfong would put in picks for those two guys. We have heard strong buzz on Crowell for a while now with Alabama. And then CD again, that's the buzz at the moment. Credit to Steve on that. But like you said, there's a long way to go in that one. And I think him and Tate Jones are going to be about signing day guys. I think those are two in-state prospects that are not going to make an early decision.
Tank Jones, A-Day visitor. That was a surprise. We didn't have him on the list. In fact, we were putting the list together. He was not even thought of as being there for A-Day, and he shows up. So credit to Rock Bellantoni. He's trying to work his way into that one, because he just hadn't been a big visitor in recent months.
Right.
So Auburn's trying to stay relevant in that recruitment, and we'll see where they're at. I think they're in it. I definitely think they're in it with Tank Jones. So Zach says we have some transfer portal stuff. I do want to get into that a little bit too with you, Alan. So let's go ahead and get into questions, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
All right. Question 1, Blake R. Do you see a frontline starter offensive line being added in the spring window? Right into it then, to replace Braden Joyner, or is there a chance that they convince Braden Joyner to stay? Is what he's asking, right?
Yes, that's what he's saying. I think the chances on convincing Braden Joyner, at least last check with my source, between slim and none, and I would favor none at this point. I think he's got some schools that are very interested in him, that did a little pre-portal work, that are giving him an opportunity to start. That's what he wants to do, which is understandable because the chances of him starting over Connor Lew at center are not great at this point. I mean, I think all things being equal, unless Connor's injured, he's the clear-cut starter. And so if Braden Joyner, your future in the NFL, if you have one, is at center, and I would think Connor Lew's probably here for another 2 years. So it's an understandable move by him. To answer the first part of the question, it all depends on who enters the portal, right? I haven't seen a name yet that makes me think this is somebody that Auburn's going to jump out and grab, but it's day one.
Yeah.
And so you're beholden to who enters. But I think you had the note on this, and I'll let you take it from here, Cole. But I think it would definitely be worth their while to absolutely kick over some rocks in the transfer portal and see what they can find.
Yeah, I mean, if you really dig into the offensive line room, and we like the room, we're starting to like the way it's being built, and it takes a while. That's the hardest room to build, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think the entire staff would tell you that too. But we like the way it's been built. We like some of the young pieces. We like the top of it, but it's very, very, very top heavy. I mean, you got guys that you could lose the entire starting line after this year. You might, because if Xavier Chaplin is has anything like they expect him to have, he could go pro, right?
Yes.
Which is, you want that. You want that to happen. As much as you want him to come back, you want him to meet those expectations and go pro and be an early pick, right? That's the idea.
I think
Um,
him being a second round pick or better helps Auburn more
yes.
in the long run because that
Yeah.
shows the development, right?
Well, you look at the receivers, right? You just watch what Keandre Lambert Smith was able to do. He went from a big program in Penn State that used him. It wasn't like he wasn't being used over there. He
Right.
played, he made plays, he had touchdowns, 500 something yards, I think. He goes to Auburn and takes it a whole nother step. So, what does that tell other receivers like Eric Singleton in the portal the next year? I can go be better there.
Yes.
That's the biggest. When people ask us why can Auburn not get offensive line recruiting going? I think that's the number one thing they're missing. Look what we did with this guy.
Yes.
So, you really want that to happen with Chaplin. If it works out correctly, you're losing your entire starting offensive line. Okay. As much as you like the young guys, you've got to prepare. And I think this portal window is a really good time to do it. We haven't talked about offensive line that much with portal, but I think 1 to 2, and in a crazy world, even 3 is on the table. I wouldn't go that far. I'm thinking 1 to 2, maybe 2. What do you think?
I think probably one right now because of the price or the expense that's associated with offensive tackle. If it's interior, I can absolutely see 2. So, and again, I think where this staff has done a really good job is making a quick determination on whether or not a prospect is the juice. Excuse me, if the juice is worth the squeeze, right?
Sure.
Do they fit into their overall roster management plan either by, say, expiring eligibility, where you're taking a guy that's a complete insurance policy,
Yep.
or you are taking an upgrade in talent? And when you take the upgrade in talent, you have to be cautious about how you do it and where you do it, because do they fit into the overall layer depth that you're trying to create? So it will be interesting. And again, I think this is purely, they don't have to have an offensive lineman. I think they would like one, but it all depends. Can they find one that upgrades the ceiling and floor of the roster? That's not necessarily like offensive line is one of those, you just don't get a ton of quality that enters the portal, right? Like I
Right.
thought Auburn did a phenomenal job with Xavier Chaplin, Mason Murphy on getting quality out of the portal.
No doubt.
I can't say that for a lot of other prospects that entered. I mean, there was a lot of Island of Misfit toys. Let me put it like that.
Um, no, Island of Misfit Toys is the best way, because I sat there all day Wednesday and looked through the names, and I was like, man, I'm picking like one guy out of every 100 right now that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. And by the way, on the Braden Joyner situation, wrote a lot about that on Wednesday too, and wrote about it back in February that he was getting some play
Yes, you did.
um, from some other schools, and that is the kind of guy that when you talk about tampering, schools are looking for that guy, the guy that's behind the starters. You know, he's started and played. He can be a starter for you, but he may not be the starter. So you go, look, well, you'll be the starter here. So that's probably what's happening there. And I don't expect him to come back. You said you don't expect him to come back, so you're probably got a spot there. Question 2, Jay Lee's pink head, one of our favorites. What are the top 3 positions of need from the transfer portal? All right, you and I both, Alan, we both did this, or did our top
Mhm.
5. So, are your top 3 the same from when you did it the other day? Is it still the same 3 positions in your opinion?
Still the same 3. Though I may have a different one that would creep into a top 5, but top 3 are still the same. It's still, for me, inside linebacker, tight end, 3 tech, defensive tackle. I think those are the 3 positions that you need to go get from the transfer portal in this cycle.
Yep. I think we're pretty much on the same page. I put offensive tackle in there. I don't know if that's top 3, but to me, it's important.
Yes.
Um, I also put safety. Again, don't know if it's top 3, but you could really benefit from, um, like a clone of Jaron Thompson, right?
I agree. Now, it's interesting to me that Hugh Freeze mentioned pass rusher at his press conference,
Yeah, yeah,
and so that had actually I have offensive line and then pass rusher would be number 5 on the list for me now, bypassing what I think I had put, which was a 5 tech defensive end.
yeah.
It sounds like they're interested in trying to create as much havoc as they can off the edge and bolstering that room. So that would probably round up my top 5. But I'm with you on the offensive line piece, Cole. I think that's something where you could, if you can find the right pieces, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I will tell you something interesting. So I do have some clarity on the buck slash end room, which is all technically under the umbrella of Rock, Bill, and Tony.
Right.
Now there's a difference between a buck and an end in his room. Obviously, you have your Keldrick Falk, who's your 5 technique, and then you have your Kieron Crawford, who is a stand up edge.
Right.
I believe Jared Smith is a full time 5.
Makes sense.
Which we weren't entirely sure what was going to be the case there, but I have some clarity on that. And I think he is a full time 5 technique, 4I. So that leaves you with Kieron Crawford, Chris Murray, Jamonte Waller, and Joe Phillips as your bucks. And Jamonte Waller didn't even go through spring until the very last day or 2. He was starting to get into it some more.
Yeah.
So knowing all that, there's, if they have the numbers, they could go get another one, maybe a 1-year guy or something of that nature. I could see that happening. So makes sense. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not entirely sure yet, but it is interesting that he said pass rusher. He put it this way. He was like, I would never pass up on a pass rusher. I would never pass up on a good coverage guy.
And I think that's fair. I mean, those are premium positions in the NFL. So why would you, you know what I mean? Why would you turn your nose up at one of those guys if they're the right kind of player that can help elevate your program, right? Like those can be game changers for you. You get the right cover guy, you get the right pass rusher.
Yes, absolutely. All right, question 3, Trooper Taylor's towel, Triple T. Assuming we strike out on the tier 1 running backs, Jay Lamar, EJ Crowell, Derek Cooper, who do you think is most likely to land in this class? Boy. It's tough. It's going to be one of those, man, where we have a lot more clarity in the summer. It just is. It could be one of those 3. I'm not counting on it right now.
No.
Tell you a name that I've been tracking a little bit and talked to him on Wednesday, and he tells me he's, he actually just visited Auburn and kind of quietly got an offer and thinking about taking an official visit. What I think that means is, are they going to give him an official visit?
Right.
And his name is Eric Perry. He is from Mississippi.
DeSoto Central, South Haven, Mississippi.
Yes. Up and coming guy. I think he plays QB there. So, but he's like a track guy and he's fast. And you kind of remind, if you watch this, funny, we talked about him the other night. If you remember watching DJ Williams' highlight tape when Auburn kind of found him at the end, he was a QB playing mostly Wildcat. That's how they ran their offense. This Eric Perry guy is a lot like that. So, I don't know if he's the guy, but he's probably a name to at least track, and there's going to be some more like that, if I had to guess.
No, I think you're right, Cole, and I think he's in the mold of what I'm looking for because I don't love Auburn's positioning with any of its top 3 backs at this point. I think they have an opportunity with Jay Lamar to make a move there at some point, but Clemson, Georgia, probably the front runners there. Miami has also done a really good job with recruiting him. I would put probably Georgia and Clemson in tier 1 for him, and Auburn and Miami probably tier 2, with Florida State somewhere towards the back end. I don't really consider them, of those teams that he's placed in his top 5, top 6, I put them towards the back end. But I think Auburn can make a move. The question is, how much of a move? Can you unseat Georgia? Can you beat Clemson for him? Don't know yet. I think for him, it would take some proof of concept on the football field this year to probably get him in the boat. But even then, will it be too late? You just don't know. So you're talking about a guy that's a heavy projection right now that maybe has like a breakout senior year. I can absolutely see Auburn taking a guy like that in this class. It just seems with where they are in running back recruiting, they're a little unsettled outside of those three. There's not like a clear cut fourth option. Like we've heard names like Terry Hodges and Carson Baker, but it just doesn't seem like they're getting much traction there, or they're even attempting to get traction there,
Right.
and that they may be evaluating other options. And so I'll be interested coming outside of evaluation season in May because they're going to get another opportunity to go on the road here now that spring training's open, or excuse me, that spring is over, and see if new offers don't go out or if we start to see some prioritization of other targets that'll kind of clue us in what they plan to do as we get into official visit season.
Well, I think we're going to find out how good they are at evaling, which we already know they're pretty good at it. So that's probably what they're going to rely on here if they don't get one of those three. And we'll see how that plays out. We've seen it work. We've seen it work with
Yes.
all the running backs. It makes you wonder what the prioritization level is from a money standpoint. And by the way, I've stopped calling it NIL. I'm done with that.
It's money. Yeah.
It's money. Yeah, I'm done with that term.
No, look, let's just be real on this podcast for a minute. NIL is it's a commercial, it's an autograph signing. It's something where you're legitimately utilizing your name, image, and likeness to generate revenue on your behalf.
Yeah.
Getting a check from the collective because you play football at Auburn and you do it well, that's just money, right?
Sure. If Auburn goes and gets the Coldest Crawford and he gets an AC, business,
Yes.
whatever, then I'll call that NIL. But none of those things are going to happen. None of the things I just mentioned are going to happen. So we're just going to call it money. But it is interesting. I wonder where they're at with the money because, no offense, it doesn't take crazy good evaluation skills to find the guy down in Elba that's a good running back. Okay.
There you go.
That's not tough. It's going to be tough to go find one out somewhere else when there's not an in-state guy and the top guys are maybe going elsewhere. We're going to find out. We're going to find out what they're made of here with running back. So, question 4, Adam P1. Man, he is consistent. I'm a fan of Adam P1. He's always here. What uncommitted player did you see visiting the most at spring practices? What uncommitted player?
Ooh.
Oh, man. I guess you'd have to go with Jacquez Wilkes, being that he came back after Big Cat, which Big Cat was really just a spring practice day.
Sure.
And then he comes back for the very next, open spring practice. Of course, if you're a recruit, it's always open to you. Who else did we see a lot? Travis Burgess.
I was going to say Travis Burgess for me. He was one. I mean, he stayed for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting recruitment. North Carolina has kind of made him. They've prioritized him as the quarterback that they're going after in this class. They're still going to probably try to take Keyshawn Henderson in for a visit, but it feels like they're starting to realize they're going to need to go ahead and get Travis Burgess in this class sooner rather than later. I think they're starting to make that move. Is that the feel you get, Cole?
Yeah. If I didn't have my my rule about quarterbacks, I would probably have a prediction in for Travis Burgess to Auburn right now, and I still feel pretty good about that. And the only reason I don't, the only reason I have this rule is because it is just never as it seems with quarterback. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this time a year ago, we were done with Deuce Knight. Plain and simple. I never put a second thought into him. Maybe that's just me not doing a good job of what we do. But I was like, look, they didn't even talk to that guy as far as I know.
No,
but
they hadn't.
But Hugh Freeze, man, he liked him. You have quarterback coaches that do their own thing, and then you have Freeze who can step in and go, okay, I know what you like, but here's what I like. You know what I mean? Uh, and I think that's probably what took place, which everybody liked Deuce. Don't get me wrong. It was like,
Sure.
well, I mean, he's committed Notre Dame. Do we want to make that play? And Freeze is like, you dang right we do, because we're going to get him. And that's what happened. And you just can't predict that. Good luck. If you're trying to predict that, good luck. Have at it.
No, I'm with you because at this time last year, we were concentrated on Husan Longstreet, and then the shift happened. And one day we've got to do like a premium show podcast on quarterback recruiting of 2020 of the
Yeah.
2025 class.
I mean, you haven't even mentioned Juju Lewis yet.
I was going to say we're getting, and then it's the Juju Lewis show, and
Gracious.
then the transition of Juju and the potential for Lacey to be in KJ Lacey for like 2 seconds
Yeah.
before the Deuce Night situation happens, and then that prolonged recruitment to get Deuce to commit or to flip. I mean, that one was wild last year. Wild to follow along with, wild to cover for you guys. But you're right. I think that's a pretty good rule on your part, Cole, to never put a prediction on a quarterback unless you know that it's going to happen like within the hour. And even then, you might not want to do it.
Well, we kind of went off the rails with that question. But, I mean, do you think they're almost looking at that dramatic deal last year and going, look, Travis Burgess doesn't bring any drama. Let's just, and we like him. Why don't we just do this? You know,
Yeah.
I almost feel like that's the case. But again, I ain't predicting it.
Nope.
That's what it feels like right now. We'll roll with that. Um, I, Wilson Zero, Dalton Toothman, those are the other two that visit a lot for spring practices. Uh, yeah, Parker Pritchett.
Parker Pritchett, yes. Marquez Daniel made it over twice, I
Yeah, he made
think.
it twice. That's right.
Um,
Mostly in-state guys.
yes, most of the in-state guys made it a couple different times. So
Bralan Womack, I think maybe twice.
yeah, now that's if you're talking about high end guys, Braylon Womack's a guy that visited multiple times and probably has
Chase,
been to
Chase
Auburn as much as
Matthews.
any. Yeah, Jace Matthews, but Braylon, because of his sister, has been to Auburn a lot. Maybe
Yeah.
not always to attend football practice, but he's in Auburn a good bit.
Yes. All right. Question 5, Jay Galloway. How much has Deuce receiving a bulk of the snaps this spring helped with what we have heard from talking to recruits? So he's asking how much, Deuce being in there, being in the rotation as much as he has been, has that helped with recruits? Um, yeah, I'd say it has, especially because that's who they want to talk about. Every time we talk to them, that's exactly who they want to talk about.
I think it definitely helps you with wide receiver and offensive line recruiting. I think when you're able to point at those two positions, who's going to be protecting it? Like, do you have a 5-star quarterback that you're going to be protecting? And do you have a 5-star quarterback that you're going to be catching passes from? Those are the two positions to me. And I think it's made a difference on that front for sure. I think there are guys that Deuce Knight is absolutely friends with in this class, Jace Matthews being one of those, Tristan Keys being another, that are very interested in his progress at Auburn and, you know, him being the guy when they step foot on campus, knowing they have that marquee kind of quarterback there that can get them the football.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And they get to see more of him, which is great because he's getting all the reps. I mean, I was like the Thursday practice the real physical practice that we talked about a lot, that Thursday where they got after it and did a lot of team going against good on good. I was like, okay, it's just every 3 plays, Deuce and Jackson rotate, and it's not like he's with the ones and he's with the twos. No, they're just rotating. That's the 2 quarterbacks you got. You might see John Colvin every 10th throw, maybe,
There you go.
and it really probably wasn't even that much. So, yeah, they got to see a lot of Deuce, and I think that's very good for selling points, like you said. Question 6, Wiggle Wiggle WDE. How many DBs do we go after in the portal after the losses in that room? So you lost to the transfer portal. You've lost Terrence Love, CJ Johnson again, which That's not a surprise.
No.
And J.C. Hart. Any of those losses to you, Alan? Are those big? I mean, I guess the only one that really you would consider being bigger would be J.C. Hart. I mean, do any of those worry you? Really?
No, and this is not me trying to in any way be insulting or demeaning to the players that left,
Sure.
but
Sure.
Terrence Love had been passed on the depth chart. He was not necessarily in the too deep. I think some of the young guys had kind of started to pass him towards the end of spring. And look, he's a smart kid. He's a talented kid. He's looking for a place to play. My guess is he's going to end up at another Power 4 school and probably be relatively successful. It
Yeah.
just wasn't going to happen for him in the back end at Auburn. As far as CJ Johnson is concerned, I don't know where he's going to end up, but in full disclosure, I didn't love that pickup when it happened the first time. And I think Auburn's done a really good job of retooling the back end. And so his time at Auburn was just kind of always going to be marked some. JC definitely, I think he of that group, he was the one that had an opportunity to contribute. But with JC, I always questioned whether or not his best position was in the back end at safety as opposed to trying to fit him in at corner. And I'll be interested to see who he lands with. I think there's some legitimate Power 4 teams that are interested in him. A lot of tools, 4.4 speed, good length, really smart kid. I think probably if you're Auburn and you're critiquing him, it's just you didn't see him flash in the moments when he actually got onto the field and got playing time. And that's what you wanted to see to kind of emerge, because he got passed by a really, really talented freshman this past year. And then Auburn went out and added a Blake Woodby and a Donovan Starr.
Rayon Strader.
Rayon Strader. And so you're behind like 5 guys at this point if you're him, and you understand it. And for that young man, I'm going to be cheering for him. I think he is a great kid, fantastic representative of Auburn. Again, very toolsy. If he puts it all together, he's a starter at the Power 4 level, but it just didn't come together for him at Auburn, and we'll see what happens there. But he's probably the one out of that group where you're like, I wish he could have figured it out. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's enough there that you thought he had some real upside.
I've heard a couple of Pac-12 schools, or whatever it's called now. Is it still the Pac-12? I can't keep up.
I think it's the Pac-8 now, or
Okay,
Pac-8. Yeah, or maybe it's the Pac-7, and they're looking for a Pac-8, looking for the 8th team. I don't really know.
I call them one of them schools out west. How about that?
There you go. That works in my vernacular, brother.
Yeah, I've heard Colorado, Utah. Maybe he ends up at one of those. That wouldn't be
I can
bad
see
at
that.
all.
I can see that.
Do you think Auburn gets a DB in the portal?
I do. I do think they'll end up ultimately taking one, because I think there's a possibility that Auburn is not done with guys maybe entering the portal from the back end. I think there's the possibility, because you got a long way to go, man. Holding everybody at bay for the next 10 days, it's a really tough task. So there's a likelihood that at least one more DB will enter the portal. And if that's the case, I think Auburn does need to add one back to make sure the numbers are secure in both the safety, corner, and star rooms.
I feel good about corner. I think you got all kinds of options for the star nickel position. And then safety is where I'm like, okay, you could really benefit from a guy that I call him a been there and done that kind of guy. Right?
Fair enough.
Again, a clone of Jaron Thompson, a guy that's played tons of football. Maybe he's not a world beater, but who cares? He knows what he's doing. Put him back there. Let him make a few plays here and there. You know, don't get the top blown off your coverage because of a missed assignment or something you're trying to figure out with a young guy. That's what I'm thinking. I think one. I really believe they go and get one.
Okay.
All right. Question 7, Crawdad Man. What do we think the plan is for Freeze and staff in this spring window? Do we get a little aggressive with certain positions or play it conservatively?
I mean, I think they're already being aggressive in certain spots.
Yeah.
I think the 3 we mentioned, tight end, linebacker, defensive tackle, they're already being aggressive there. I think they have an understanding of what they want to do at those 3 positions. Beyond that, I think they'll be a little bit more conservative and kind of try to get a better feel for who's going to enter the portal at certain spots, and then maybe attack once those names become available if they do.
How about this, Alan? What positions do you think they'll be aggressive with? Which ones do you think they'll be conservative with? So this is kind of like our top five, but okay, these are the positions they go. We got to have somebody, and then these are the ones where they go. It'd be nice to have somebody here if we can get this done.
I think inside linebacker, 3 tech defensive tackle, those are the spots they're going to be very aggressive at filling those two. I think
Right.
there's without question they're going to be aggressive in filling those spots. Offensive line, I think they'll be patient because it has to be the right guy.
Yeah, I agree.
DB, same situation. It's got to be the right guy. So I think they'll be a little more patient in that spot. And then receivers, one where they'll be patient because it has to be the right guy. You have such a unique and talented room. I think trying to find somebody that's willing to come in and compete against that group for playing time, it's going to take a special player or an extremely young player that's just looking for a place to develop.
What about edge?
Ooh,
Would that fall into the conservative category?
I think so. But I'm always a little wary when Hugh mentions anything. You know what I mean? He's so transparent, Cole, that I don't know. I don't know. I'm tempted to say yes, but I'm gonna say they're gonna be aggressive on that one. I'm gonna go against what I want to say, which is like, because in my mind, like if I were doing roster management, if I'm Will Redmond, yes, I'm being a little bit more conservative. But I also know that Hugh has been pretty honest about his assessment of things. And when he mentions something by name, it makes me think that they're going to go out and pursue it. So I think they'll be aggressive at that spot too.
I will say this too. This is a little insider information for you. How do I put this? Hugh Freeze is if you've been wanting to coach at Auburn that's a CEO and takes a CEO approach, when it comes to recruiting, he is doing that, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Like really doing that to the point where he's going Will Redmond, Kenyatta Watson, for the position coach guys, the Von Trail, Rock. You got it.
Yep.
Let me know who you like, right? And then we'll go after him. I think that's more the approach than him sitting down and going, now let me go find some guys.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? He's going, all right, y'all go find them. When you like somebody, let me know. We're going strong.
Sure. And by that, Hugh is absolutely a willing recruiter. Like it, and he is very involved in that. But I'm with you on the evaluation side of it. Like, okay, you like this guy. I trust your evaluation. I trust that he's a guy that mixes with us. I'm in. Let's go get him. I'm with you. He's not micromanaging that.
I don't know if you saw what I put up on the board too. It was of the 2023 class, the ones that are remaining. Did you see this?
I did.
Here, let's see. I think I can share this. Give me a second. I don't remember how to do it, Zach. Slides. Well, you know what? I'm just going to read it to you. How about that, Alan?
That sounds good to me.
Jeffrey's a technology guy,
He is.
Not me. I'm still over here struggling with internet.
Looks are deceiving, Cole, because I would not have put Jeffrey Lee as more technologically advanced than you, my man. But that's hey.
He'll shock you.
He will. He will.
So these signees from the 2023 class are no longer with Auburn. Okay. Deron Reed, Terrence Love, Colton Hood, Wilkie Denard, Clay Whedon I put in there. I have not seen him with the team. I know he's on the roster. Hadn't seen him with the team, for those who didn't know. Braden Joyner, C.J. Johnson, J.C. Hart, Brenton Williams, Hank Brown, Steven Johnson, and DeQuavius Sorey. Okay. These are the ones from the 23 class. By the way, this is Freeze's first class, technically.
Yes.
Not a full class by any means. He took the job November 28th, and they signed December 20th.
The transition class, yes.
So he had less than a month to put together to finish a class, basically. These are the guys that are still left with the team from that class: Keldrick Falk, Kayan Lee, Connor Liu, Sylvester Miller, Tyler Scott, Bobby Travis, Tyler Johnson, and Champ Anthony. The only one that was committed before Hugh Freeze took over was Jeremiah Cobb.
Mm,
Is that
mm.
interesting or what?
Extremely. And of the ones that have left, Colton Hood is the only one on that list where I go, because I think
Yeah,
he would have, I thought he was such a fit at Auburn, and I thought he would have brought some value to the defensive back room. I mean, I think he would have played a significant amount last season.
very important when you look back on it. How important he would have been to stay. Definitely him. I liked Hank Brown when he played a little bit. I thought he had
Yeah.
potential, but is he a fit? You question that a little bit. Obviously Braden Joyner, we liked him too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hate to see him go, but understand it, right?
For sure. You understand that, and you pull for Braden, as a player. Like, absolutely, this is not about money for him. This is about putting himself in a position to play at the next level.
All right, question 8, Augustus McCrae. This is the lonesome dove guy that Jeffrey loves, Alan. What's the latest? By the way, I got to watch that. He would be upset with me.
Oh,
You
yes,
too.
you do. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely would be upset with you. Come on now.
I got to watch that one. That's on me. What's the latest on 5-star safety Bralan Womack from Mississippi that's about to announce? Well, actually, he announced for an announcement.
That's going to happen in August, I think. So it's not exactly close.
August 26th, maybe something like that. Where do we see Bralan Womack landing at the moment, Alan?
I really think this is going to come down to Auburn and Ohio State. That is my information. That's my gut. I think Auburn is very interesting. I think entering this spring window, if you will, these spring months, that Ohio State had a pretty big lead on pretty much everybody, and that Auburn has closed the gap and will continue to kind of battle for him. And this is one where, if you're Hugh Freeze, you say, I'm not letting this kid get out of my footprint. I'm not letting Ohio State come down here and get him. You have a family connection there. His sister, for those that don't know, plays on the softball team. And I don't think that he's going to do anything just because his sister does it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that family is important to him, and I think family is important to his parents. And so it would certainly make it convenient for them to be able to come see their children at one school as opposed to multiple.
Absolutely.
Though I think they will probably embrace whatever he chooses to do. Florida, Texas A&M, those are the other two schools involved. Very good recruiting staffs at both of those schools. Obviously, I think a lot of Mike Elko, and he is one of the best defensive football minds in the game today. And so there's an obviously attractive pitch from them. Florida, I don't know as much about their recruitment of him, though that's something I would love to pick Keith's brain about at some point, maybe have him on the show. But I do think this one comes down to Auburn, Ohio State. I lean Auburn at this point, but I wouldn't put a prediction on it. That's just gun to head. Signing day were today. I think I would go Bralan Womack to Auburn, but Ohio State's not going to make that one easy. That's for sure. I think they're going to be very formidable in that recruitment.
I think you're spot on with that. I have talked to Keith about Florida side of this a little bit. I think there's a little bit of growing confidence when it comes to Auburn, and it's coming from that side too. So that's always good to hear. With the recruitment, and Keith is the best. He catches every side. So I am liking where Auburn sits with Bralan Womack right now. Is this turning into the one, Alan, where it's almost like, you don't want to say embarrassing, but not good to lose? Is that turning into that one? Or is it because he's in Mississippi, is it not that way?
Because he's in Mississippi, it's not necessarily that way, but it's close, right? To let Ohio State come down here and pluck a kid that you really want out of Hugh Freeze's home state. That's a tough look, right? It's understandable, but it's a tough look. It's very reminiscent of Oregon coming down here and snagging a kid out of Parker High School that you really wanted. So,
Yes, absolutely. So I kind of like where Auburn is with that one right now. I agree. Ohio State's the main competition. If I were picking today, I would pick Auburn. I think Jeffrey would too. I think he said that recently.
yep, he
So,
did.
question 9, Dr. Malk. Who do y'all think the next commitment will be?
I'm going to go against the grain of your quarterback theory, and I'm going to go Travis Burgess. I think he's next in this class, even though I know he's saying he wants to take official visits and that North Carolina and Wisconsin are absolutely on the docket to receive those in addition to Auburn. But something makes me think that Auburn pushes on this one, decides to go ahead and get its quarterback in the class to kind of reinforce that face of a recruiting class. And I'm not saying that Travis Burgess is going to be all of a sudden Deuce Knight from a recruiting standpoint, but I think he is a guy that could be popular with other recruits and a guy that can absolutely help you fortify a class and build one out and be an active peer recruiter for you. And quarterback dominoes do go early. And I think Auburn's done a pretty good job of reading the room on who's leaning where at this point, and Travis Burgess makes a lot of sense to me.
That's a great pick. Just to be different, because I think that might be right. I will go with Wilson Zierer.
That's a good one too.
Yep. I wanted to go ahead and get those picks in. I'll put it that way.
I don't blame you.
Question number 10. Another Jay Lee's pink head. Another one. So, who are the Joe Phillips, DeMarcus Riddick, Perry Thompson, Eric Winters type players in 26 class? The ones that Hugh and staff aren't going to let get away no matter what. We kind of just touched on that with Bralan Womack. I think he's starting to fall into that category. Does it feel like C.D. Morgan's in that category?
I think he is. I think CD's in that category. Will he ultimately get away? Quite possibly. But I think he's absolutely a priority target. I mean, I think the guy we started off the show with from linebacker, Wadley, Alabama. I mean, I honestly believe it.
Yes.
Asking around that Jacquez Wilkes is a top 5 target, maybe top 10 on verge of top 5 target in this class. Like, I think he is that high on the list for DJ Durkin. So he's absolutely one of those. You got to think.
I think Vodney Cleveland's in there.
Yeah, I think because of the position, right? Like, just who else? Yes. Who else is that nose tackle in this class or nose guard in this class?
Yeah, that's another one too, where you're like, okay, if you don't get Vodney after he's not put Bama in his top 6, you know.
Yes, that one's embarrassing. Like, you don't land Vodney Cleveland and he goes to Florida or what other school he's truly considering. Yeah, that's a real tough look for you.
Yeah, I think he ends up with Auburn in the end as of right now. We'll see how it plays out. He's definitely interested in other schools, namely Florida. That's the big one. So, but that's, you know, when it comes to those type guys, those are the 4 guys that he named: Joe Phillips, DeMarcus Riddick, Eric Winters. Perfect. I mean, there's those guys every year, right?
Yes.
We know who they are. They start to emerge. And I think we nailed him with Jacquez Wilkes, C.D. Morgan, Vodney, maybe Bralan Womack is in that category.
Sure.
Is there anybody else? It's usually a running back. Like Alvin was kind of in that category.
No running back in this class. Maybe
you would like to see him do it with like a Jay Lamar, wouldn't you?
You would. You really would.
Tag just that. I mean, you just wonder, where's the price tag on that? I wish I knew more about that. It's so hard to figure that out. But you know, we'll find out. You know, we'll find out exactly how they prioritize that position in this class.
No, I agree with you. Maybe Wilson Zierer. Maybe he is in that category now. I think if he were to go someplace else, that would be one of those that would sting.
Yeah, I think he became that guy when he started racking up the offers.
Agreed, because I think he's somebody who stars on the rise, and that Auburn has prioritized in this class. So for him to go someplace else at this point, that would be tough.
For sure. All right, Alan. Well, good show as always. I feel like we got a lot of good topics out there. Not as much football as I thought, but hey, your questions, you control the show. We just follow you. I mean, that's what we do. So, Zach, I apologize for the editing job you're going to have to do with our internet connection issues tonight. You know what? I'm gonna give you how about you for it.
Make that times two, because he was actually on my list for
Is he?
different reasons. I love it when Zach comes into the recruiting thread and goes, "Hey guys, just an emphasis on recruiting." He'll sneak that in there from time to time, and it always makes me laugh. But Zach in the back doesn't get enough love from us. He does a phenomenal job producing this show, guys. And again, if you're looking for a star in this industry, he's going to be it. So just make sure you're continuing to track Zach McKinnell.
Absolutely. Check out the FCS stuff, man. It's big during the portal when these guys are trying to jump up to the FBS. Zach's got all the info on them. So, double. How about you, Zach McKinnell? Do you have any others, Alan?
I do. TMH 34. I thought
Oh,
he had a good week. He's a really good poster. Eli Double I for me. He said some funny things today that made me laugh. That's going to be it. Oh no, Denim Vest. Denim Vest gets one from me.
Denim Vest. He's a big fan of me. Huge.
Denim's a good guy. He's serious about his basketball, Cole, and serious about Bruce Pearl.
I think I've mentioned it already. I'd be remiss not to mention this again for all those who have joked on me about the basketball thing. Fair game. Absolutely, you should. I forgot to mention my dad was a head basketball coach for 11 years.
Yes, he was.
Just slipped my mind, because of the whole football thing.
Sure.
But he was a head basketball coach, and he reminded me of that. He's like, "Hey, have you told all these guys coach a little ball?"
Yeah.
Just to let you know. That doesn't change how much I know about basketball because I still don't know enough. Listen to Justin Hokanson when it comes to that. He is doing a great job with that. So,
yeah, yes, he really is.
I have several. How about you, Alan? They've piled up on me a little bit.
Get them out, Cole. Get them out.
I got to start with Dr. Malk, and I'm going to show you one. Hang on.
Okay, I'm interested.
I think I've showed this before, but Dr.
Nice.
Malk, he did this. He created this. He sent one to me and Jeffrey. So, how about you to him for sure? All right. I don't remember if I'd done it, so he needs. If I have, we'll just do it again, Dr. Malk. I appreciate that. It's an awesome picture. So, Dr. Malk, D Wayne,
good one.
D Wayne, 80. D Wayne 80. In case you didn't know, D Wayne 80 put together one of the best insider intel. Ask me whatever you want on Wednesday. You need to go check that out on the board. He outed himself a little bit. We've known D Wayne for a little while now. He is affiliated with Jamonte Waller and put the post out there. Hey, I know there's rumors out there. Let me just go ahead and tell you, Jamonte Waller's not entering the portal. And a couple guys were like, "Did he tell you that?" And I'm like, "You better listen to this guy."
Yeah, little bit, right? Little bit.
You might want to listen to him. So, great job by him. Everybody's going to be asking him questions now for a long time. Congratulations, D Wayne. Mississippi Tiger, I thought had a great post. I thought Felix WDE 89 had a great post. I thought y'all tripping gave me some great. He gave me some great stuff on what to call my show. Some of it I can't repeat.
Nope, that sounds like y'all tripping.
Will not be using, but some of it I was like, okay, let me run that by Mr. McKinnell. So good job, y'all tripping. I'm gonna actually look at that. And that is everybody for me. So, Dr. Mount, Zach McKinnell times 2, TMH 34, Eli Double Lot, Dwayne 80, Denim Vest, Mississippi Tiger, Felix WDE, and y'all tripping. Is that everybody? I got everybody, I think.
Yep.
All right. Again, great show, Alan. Always enjoy it when it's just us. We always go an hour, never fails. And we talk recruiting and get real into it, where Jeffrey is not making us laugh and getting us off course. Although we did that a few times tonight, it'll happen. But for Alan, for Zach in the back, I'm Cole Pinkston. We appreciate y'all for this show, and remember, never pass up on a playmaker.